Oh, we've been called crazy a lot by many of you. Every time someone has viewed our vaults, they've always asked the same thing. Cross, why is your vault so full? Cross, why do you keep those weapons? They're not meta. And all I can say is not yet. Fellas, we have a major meta shift coming to our sandbox on July the 19th. That is barely 2 weeks away. It'll be dropping with Solstice. And not only are we going to be seeing airborne changes, which is fantastic, meaning all weapons should be feeling a little bit better from the air. Arguably, the biggest changes are the ones that are hitting our weapon archetypes. This was a sandbox change that was supposed to be coming next season, and Bungie has rolled this to now. So with that being said, today we're going to go over some weapons that I want you to be looking out for. These are 12 weapons that I kept my own hands on in preparation for this meta. Starting with hand cannons. 180 round per minute hand cannons are actually getting a ginormous buff in its body shot damage and crit damage, moving from 37 to 40 for body and from 57 to 60 for crits. Essentially now giving you the ability to 2 crit 2 body against Guardians with a 1.33 second time to kill value on body shots. Now, overall, this doesn't really change the TTK value, still sitting at a 1 second optimal time to kill. However, now that crit shot damage has been moved up, as well as the body shot damage, you're gonna now have the ability to easily 3-tap Guardians with the smallest of buffs: Empowering Rift, Radiant, Inertia Override. Even with something like Radiant that is only a 10% buff, this is just enough to allow your 180 round per minute hand cannon to 3-tap on Guardians, 9 resilience or less. This is beautiful, guys. We're talking OG Luna's Hound Not Forgotten time to kill of 0.67 seconds. And you'll be able to easily do this with 180 round per minute hand cannons, which I want to direct your attention to. And yes, we're going to talk about Not Forgotten and Luna's Hound in just a moment. First, you remember that hand cannon we reviewed called the TWAB? Yes, Frontier's Cry is actually one of the best feeling 180s in the game. It's one of my favorites. A lot of people talked a lot of junk about this thing. Rightfully so, it's in a terrible archetype. Well, until now. Frontier has a number of random rolls. I personally talked about how much I like the Adagio roll, but that's not even going to be necessary. Honestly, just get a roll with good range, and you can get some pretty crazy ones here. I've got one with Rapid Hit, Iron Reach, with a ranged masterwork, sitting at about 82 range. Granted, stability is important, but this is a precision frame. For the most part, the weapon's stable, and it handles flinch well. You can also do Rapid Hit and Kill Clip together, which will not only lock in the 3 crits, but also the 2 crit 1 body. I really do hate it for all of you that may have deleted this weapon, because really, Frontier's Cry is gonna be a nasty one in the next sandbox. Now, if you don't have Frontier's Cry, it's all right. We do have Survivor's Epitaph. Cross, why do you call it that? It's Epitaph. Dude, we've been calling it wrong for so long that's just, it's ingrained in us, right? This is one of the best 180s in the game, primarily because the things that plague 180s is their lack of handling. They feel slow, despite being a rapid fire frame. The beautiful thing about Survivor is you can roll it with Surplus. That's right. Surplus makes this weapon feel as fluid as a lightweight. And the beautiful thing about Surplus is it pairs so nicely with both multi-kill clip and kill clip. And yes, you can roll with both of these. Obviously, kill clip does add on more damage, but multi-kill clip does have that ease of use where you can just reload immediately after getting a kill, proc it, and keep chaining kill to kill. Granted, you can pretty much do the same thing with kill clip. You just have to swap to your other weapon, swap back, and then reload. But again, mid gunfight, that is you juggling a few things. Either way, as much as I love the Chode, and the Chode is very good, Survivor's Epitaph with Surplus feels phenomenal. Where the weapon lacks, though, is of course its range. I found the range to just be piss poor, and that is gonna hurt this weapon. Even if you were to have like a ranged masterwork and decent range stats, expect to only be hitting up to 30 meters with Survivor's Epitaph. Dude, now y'all got me saying it wrong. But where this hand cannon makes up for that is of course its fluidity and its ability to duel. This hand cannon will pepper the piss out of Guardians. Throw on a full auto mod on these 180s and you'll be stringing kills one after another. Now another 180 round per minute hand cannon, and I feel like we've got nothing but hand cannons, but don't worry, we're gonna get past this section in just a moment. We have Nature of the Beast. Got some new light players right now going, what the hell is that weapon? Look, if you happen to have it in your vault, take a look. This is actually a very good hand cannon. Everything that I just talked about in terms of like range and the lack of that there on Survivor, Nature of the Beast is able to compete. And that's simply because it can roll with rangefinder. Now a max range roll, Frontier's Cry, reaches about 34 to 35 meters. And that's max. The problem with that is normally you have to roll with things like Iron Reach, which hurts your stability and puts you at like 19 stability, which is pain. Even though the precision frame does allow you to combat that, understand stability stability is a huge counter to flinch now. Nature of the Beast, though, allows you to reach almost up to 34 meters with the likes of Sure Shot, Aztecross rounds, and Rangefinder without actually hurting your stability. You're still sitting north of 50 stability, which is very nice. Where this hand cannon is going to hurt you, though, is of course that handling. And that is one thing I still like about Frontier's Cry, is that its default handling is good. And I'm telling you, if you like weapons that move fluidly, 180s are going to drive you mad. Either way it goes, Nature of the Beast, with that right roll for the range, is going to be a contender for you. Now let's bring up the big one, the final hand cannon here, Malfeasance. Guys, Malfeasance is one of my favorite weapons in the game. It got such a massive buff inside of PvE. It pairs so good with Lucky Pants, so much so we actually did DPS tests, and we were blown away by the damage that Malfeasance puts out. Being a kinetic weapon, dealing bonus damage to Taken, and Gambit invaders, the weapon's very good. What most people don't know about Malfeasance is that it's pretty good inside of PvP, and that's simply because of its explosive shadow perk, where you actually shoot these slugs that burrow into the enemy, and stacking 5 slugs will cause them to explode. If you got somebody that's sitting there peek shooting you constantly, and they're just aggravating the piss out of you, as the fight goes on, Malfeasance gets closer and closer to winning. You get 5 shots off into that opponent, oh, they're gonna die. And it's a beautiful thing to behold. So much so that if you have been on the receiving end of Malfeasance, you know it makes you nervous. You know, if you don't kill that guy with Malfeasance in time, he is gonna inevitably kill you due to those slugs. Now the question comes up about Malfeasance, what about its exotic catalyst? Are we gonna get that? Since 180s are getting a buff, is next season gonna bring us this exotic catalyst that in the database, by the way, is showing to increase the range of this weapon by plus 20. On top of that, the weapon already has tremendous stability. Bungie normally likes to pair certain buffs with either certain exotics dropping, or in this case, a potential exotic catalyst. And maybe, just maybe, Malfeasance might finally be getting that catalyst. Now moving on, we've talked enough about hand cannons. Let's talk about scout rifles. Now this is actually going to be hitting 2 different archetypes, one being our 150s, which is our high impacts, the other being precision, which is our 180s. Let's start real quick with our high impacts. They're actually increasing the body damage from 38.2 to 42. They're also moving the crit damage from 66.9 to 73.5. Guys, these are tremendous bumps in damage. You'll now be able to 2 crit 1 body against 189 HP or lower, kills in 1.6 seconds. Now, you're looking at that and you're going, yo, who's actually rocking 3 or 4 resilience or less? There's people out there, and that's what 189 gets you up to, right? It's about 4 resilience. I think where this really shines is for scout rifles like Jade Rabbit. Jade Rabbit comes with the perk, Fate of All Fools, where you chain body shots to gain bonus damage on your next precision shot and return ammo to the magazine. By the way, guys, the stability bump there from the exotic catalyst is so good, giving it plus 30 in stability. The weapon also comes with high caliber rounds, which is crazy flinch. Now, the reason why this is such a big move, especially for my controller players considering this thing has Zim moments, it's because you would actually start with a body shot here and immediately work your way to the crit. What this would result in is easy 2 crit 1 body on even max resilience guardians. In the way like Jade Rabbit hops, back inside of Destiny 1, that's how you would use it. You would intentionally go for the body shot because the recoil would actually bring you to the head. And by that moment, Zen moment has taken effect. And by then, it's just easy 2-tap city. 2 crits, 1 body, with still the most competitive time to kill amongst scout rifles at 0.8 seconds. Jade Rabbit will easily achieve that. Be looking for it to be meta, especially for controller players. My God, controller players, please try it out. The other scout rifle is, of course, Polaris Lance. This is in the energy slot, our other exotic, and personally, probably my favorite. By the way, we actually have a Polaris build coming out here soon, so be looking out for that. Polaris, though, is so clean, man. Everything from its design to its reticle. To me, it's like one of the best weapons to land 3 taps with, even on mouse and keyboard. And I bring up mouse and keyboard because Zen Moment is supposed to have like hardly no effects for mouse and keyboard players, but it doesn't really matter here for Polaris. It's just that good. On top of that, between its exotic catalyst, those explosion kills, perfect fifth, all around the board, Polaris Lance is a fantastic scout. And considering this season we have more long-range maps in rotation, whether it's the new map or Eternity, guys, I'm finding myself using a scout rifle. Being a laning Larry, but that's what we're doing. And that's gonna be even more prevalent in the next sandbox. Now, we just covered those 2 exotics. Let me bring up a couple legendaries. Starting with arguably one of the most underrated scout rifles this season, Perses-D. This is actually a hockey kinetic scout rifle. And fellas, I'm in love. We're gonna individually review this thing. Perses-D is so good. I've got this roll right here with Rapid Hit Headstone with Fluted Barrel, and by God, I choose it over Jade Rabbit. Its ability to land those 3 taps ties that of Polaris Lance, and I think Polaris is one of the best at doing it. Personally, I haven't actually looked at this scout rifle because I didn't really think hockey made good scout rifles. I kind of looked at Perses as like, okay, that's gonna be a good PvE scout rifle, especially due to the fact of hockey breach armaments, and that's pretty much how I left left it. But boy, was I blown away with how well it performed inside of PvP. 3-tap after 3-tap after 3-tap. And yes, even inside of PvP, I love Headstone. Now, you don't have to go with Headstone. You can go Explosive Payload. You can go Opening Shot. This weapon also comes with Perpetual Motion, Rapid Hits. There's a variety of options. All I can tell you, though, is just this roll right here. I was extremely impressed with this. Now, another 150 to consider is an old one. And yes, this is some old gameplay, but I actually only have this gameplay of this particular roll, and that's this Transfiguration. Transfiguration could actually 2-tap if you had the Kill Clip Rampage roll. Yes, back in the day, Bungie used to get crazy, man. They'll give us 2 damage perks. Transfiguration will still be able to roll with that. Now, considering the bump there in damage that 150s are getting, you really don't need that. Guys, you're gonna be hitting 73 damage or 73.5 per crit, which means with something like Kill Clip, you're gonna be 2-tapping anyways on those Guardians 5 resilience or less. Sure, Rampage can get you the kill on max resilience, which is still really nice, but I will say, like, even back then when we were actually trying this out, it took a lot of work, right? On top of that, even though Rampage is a great perk in that column for PvP, you may want to consider Zim moments, especially for my controller players. So for my scout rifle users that are on mouse and keyboard, that Rampage kill clip roll, still fantastic. For my controller players, break out that Zim moment kill clip roll, and I promise you, it will perform well. This 150 is going to be a heavy hitter, and I'm interested to see how well it does in the next sandbox. Now, that's pretty much it for 150s. Let's talk about 180s, and I actually want to bring up just 2 of them. One of them is, of course, Hung Jury. Now, we actually had this thumbnail a long time ago, and it was Hung Jury with a 0.67 time to kill value, which, by the way, is not bait. Hung Jury was actually getting those 0.67 TTK values, but with a particular roll, and that's actually this box breathing roll. Box breathing increased that damage just enough to allow you to get that 3-tap, and it would sneak up on people. Now, granted, it took a second to aim down sights to get it procced, but once you got that timing down, it was extremely deadly. With the 180 change coming, and that bump there for its damage for both body shot and crit shot, you won't have to land 3 crits with a box breathing 180. No, 2 crits, 1 body all day long. 0.67 time to kill value, but with even more forgiveness here. Now, granted, kind of the playstyle we used to use with Hung Jury and box breathing was actually taken to the air. It's a little more difficult now, but we're hoping the airborne changes will allow us to kind of play with this a little more. Regardless though, Hung Jury, if you kept one with a box breathing roll, guys, it's gonna be nasty. Another 180 round per minute scout rifle, and we have to bring this one up, and I was actually impressed with the limited amount of gameplay I got of it, is Tears of Contrition. Now I bring this one up because this is a craftable scout rifle, so obtaining that roll that you want should be a little bit easier before these changes go out. It can roll with things like Perpetual Motion, Explosive Payload, Opening Shot. It has a clean sight, pretty decent stats, sexy enough weapon, and I actually think it's going to be pretty good next season. There's really nothing there in terms of like changing TTK values, but for consistency purposes, it does possess that. Of course, I'm more excited about Hung Jury, but considering that we have not yet to actually review this scout rifle, I'm looking forward to trying this one out. The other scout rifle is one we haven't even gotten gameplay of inside of PvP, and that's actually Vision of Confluence. And that's because this sucker can roll with surplus and kill clip. Guys, if you want a very good scout rifle, I know it's got a 2.8 rating right now for Crucible. Believe me, it's not good, at least for the Adept version. For some reason, the regular version has a higher rating inside of Crucible, but for the Adept version, a 2.8 rating. Regardless though, I'm excited to try this scout rifle out with the 180 changes. And yes, with kill clip, it will easily 3-tap in 0.67 seconds. And not only that, you'll be able to do it in 2 crits and 1 body. Now, this actually takes us to our next archetype that is getting a buff, and that is of course, auto rifles. Precision 450 round per minute auto rifles are getting a body shot damage bump from 19 to 20, which is not a ginormous bump at all. And really when you look at it, it's like, all right, you'll be able to 6 crit 1 body Guardians at max resilience. Whoopee. I guess this is where I start to inject my own bias into this, because again, TTK wise, you're still looking at a 0.8 second time to kill value, which by the way, is still really good. But 2 auto rifles I want you to consider is one of my favorite, Tigerspite. Tigerspite is so good. Whether you're rocking that surplus kill clip roll, whether you're going with the rangefinder roll, one of the beautiful things about this auto rifle, it's its ability to grab those crit shots. I don't know if it's the reticle. Again, I talked about the same thing with like Horus Lease. They just feel good. Another beautiful thing about this auto rifle is with that rangefinder roll, you can reach up to 35 meters and beyond. Guys, I love Tigerspite. No, it won't be meta, but I still want you to hang on to this dang thing and try it. Now, another scout rifle that's also another precision frame, and it's craftable this season, is Firefright. Now, it has terrible reviews. 2.8 stars inside of PvP. Damage perks are non-existent. non-existent outside of Adagio. Also, that first column is not that great either. Look, there's a lot working against Firefright outside of its archetype. However, I was thoroughly impressed with this auto rifle. Like, genuinely. Like, wow, this thing is actually putting out. Will it be meta? No, it won't. But by God, is it not a sexy auto rifle? Can we at least give it that? Either way it goes, these are the big changes hitting our sandbox and weapons I want you to lock in for PvP. I know we have some buffs coming to certain weapons inside of PvE, things like shotguns, etc. And we're going to talk about that in a future video. But for the most part, I wanted to get this list out to you just to kind of make you aware of the upcoming weapons to just grab. Maybe it is that 7th Seraph Carbine or that Shadow Price or that Tigerspite in my case. But I think the big meta shifters are definitely going to be in your scout rifles and in those hand cannons. Believe me, fellas, these are ginormous buffs and you're going to be seeing a lot more of them inside of Crucible. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Is there a weapon you wanted on this list? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.